From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now, the top stories tonight. Nigerians witness another round of police brutality as they mark 5th anniversary of End SARS protests with demand for release of Nnamdi Kanu. And President Tinubu reaffirms commitments to judicial independence, urges fairness in dispensing justice. Colombia recalls ambassador to United States following President Trump's disparaging remarks and threats to cut off aid.
And in the business, House of Representatives tasks federal governments to revive moribund industries and boost small and medium-sized enterprises.
And in sports, Nigeria's contingent returns to Heroes Welcome after finishing second at World Para Powerlifting Championships.
Tonight starts now. Welcome once again, and tonight begins in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, where the Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest led by prominent rights activist Omoyele Sowore took place. The protesters gathered outside the Nigerian Communications Commission headquarters on Monday in Maitama, chanting Free Nnamdi Kanu Now. Sounds of gunshot forced the crowd to flee in panic, while demonstrators and police traded volleys of tear gas near the Secretariat as the protest intensified. And similarly, hundreds of residents living in the Federal Capital Territory were left stranded amid heightened security presence around the Kugbonyanya axis during the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest. The situation led to severe traffic congestion, with only a few motorists available to convey commuters to their destination. Some residents who spoke to News Central expressed frustration caused by the gridlock.
Our response has been very commensurate with the situation on ground. The law actually permits the police to use minimal force when necessary. In this particular case, a court order is out there that clearly spells out that protesters should not come anywhere around the Aso Villa, the Eagle Square, the Force Headquarters, and Shehu Shagari Way. And for these protesters, they attempted, against the dictates of the court order, to come close to this place. And after several warnings, yet they still attempted to move to these areas. We had to use minimal force. In this particular case, the minimal force we could use was tear gas. No live bullets. I repeat, no live bullets, tear gas, and it did the work. They were dispersed, and the job was done. And this is just in conformity with the assurance we gave Nigerians in our statement released 2 days ago that we would carry out enforcement of the court order and ensure that other Nigerians have easy passage to go about their lawful duties and they are not intimidated or harassed in any way. Attack on journalists. I know for a fact that a few people were arrested this morning, and when it turned out that one of them was a journalist, that journalist was released immediately. So journalists and the press have nothing to fear. I'm seeing this just now for the first time, but I can say that we have no reason to suppress the press, and this will be investigated. For journalists, for the press, they are partners with the police, and when we have cases like this and there are barricades, even if journalists are coming to cover things, I think they would need also, but I don't know what this case is about, but just to be clear, when there are barricades, even if journalists are covering these events, they also need to respect these barricades and zoom in and take their videos from afar. But this particular case, this video is coming to my attention now and to be looked into. But like I said earlier, the journalist that was picked up with some protesters, some unruly protesters this morning, was promptly released. Immediately, he was able to identify himself as a journalist.
Sidelines News Central television team was attacked by the security force My colleague Aisha Salihu accused operators of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps of attacking her crew while covering the Free Nnamdi Now protest in Abuja. For this development, we now turn to a prominent rights activist and convener of Free, or rather Release Nnamdi Kanu Now protest, Omoyele Sowore. Also joining is News Central correspondent who was on the field all day covering the protest, Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining this evening. Sagir, let's start with you. How would you describe the conduct of protesters and that of the security operatives during the demonstrations?
Well, good evening, Maz. I would start by saying, first of all, I can still perceive the smell of tear gas canisters in my nose. That just gives you an impression of how long the day was. But then I start from the very beginning. The protest started in Maitama, just in front of the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja. They were there for quite a few moments, and of course, we all saw the videos of how that went. Tear gas canisters were pelted on the demonstrators as at that moment, and I think it was at that moment that Omoyele Sowore had announced the arrest of Aloy Ejimako, the counsel representing Nnamdi Kanu in the court, as well as his younger brother, Fine Boy Kanu. As at this moment, we still do not know what the situation is with regards to that, but our ears are on the ground and we are hoping that we would get information from them. Well, the protesters were dispersed from there, and then they moved to reconvene around Bega Under Bridge. From Bega Under Bridge, they moved into the Utako district, continuing, of course, with their demonstration as it is. They moved into the Chisco area, Chisco Park area. That's a luxurious bus park that carries Nigerians from the north up onto the southeast and even down southwest and even the south-south. So it's a major point that carries Igbo individuals and individuals from the south of southeast extraction. Of course, upon entering that area, quite a number of individuals came up, regrouping and of course reinforcing the numbers of the protesters. They went on in their numbers, going on of course as usual. They are just past the NUJ FCT secretariat here in the FCT at the junction, and were granting interviews to us, of course, when we were surrounded yet again by police officers who then went ahead to pelt us with yet again tear gas canisters. Of course, we ran to safety, but then we got that on television and on camera. The protesters went on undeterred. This time they reconvened at the Apo Mechanic axis of Apo Resettlement here in Abuja. They were able to gather yet again larger than the crowd that they had initially gathered at the Utako axis. This time I would say I would not be mincing words if I say at this point the protesters were over 1,000. But then it continued on, and again they would regroup, and the police would come and pelter the protesters with tear gas. They will run, of course, and then regroup at another location. This was what the protest looked like. This was the shape and form that it took here in Abuja, of course, up until they got to the force headquarters to demand for the release of individuals that were arrested. And sadly, we didn't get any favorable response, of course, from the police, because we were not even answered by any senior police officer when we arrived at the force headquarters as at this afternoon by 3 p.m.
Once again, thank you for that play-by-play recall of events from earlier today. So with everything that you experienced, would you say it's safe to say that press freedom is yet to find a place in Nigeria?
Well, Maz, I didn't get the question, but then I heard press freedom. And as I heard press freedom, I know it's related to the events that happened earlier in the day. I would say to a large extent, upon sighting our vehicle, branded vehicle, the security forces, the security agencies didn't do so much, of course, save for the sad situation that we had seen earlier, where officers of the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps accosted some of our colleagues here in Abuja. But all of the time that I've been with the protesters, of course, I've also been in the company of other colleagues who work with News Central, and we're all inside the bus. All of the time that they saw us pass while they were carrying out their activities of tear gas canister shootings and the likes of that, they had allowed us free passage. But then, sadly, for those of us who were within the crowd when all of this were happening, we cannot account for what happened, to all of them, including myself, who was inside carrying out interviews, especially at the point where we were interviewing some of these individuals at the NUGF City Secretariat area. We were just journalists numbering about 5 or 6 of us speaking to individuals who were responding. The video showed clearly police came, they surrounded us initially, they had come to collect a placard from one of the individuals who were carrying it, and all of a sudden it was tear gas all the way. So while we can speak for the fact that they saw us with our branded bus and gave us free passage, we cannot speak to the fact that we were wearing branded jackets carrying News Central on it, but yet we're still tear gassed by the police officers. And of course, NSCDC officials attacking our colleagues somewhere within the city center earlier in the day. Back to you, Mas.
Thank you very much. Now, we're going to turn to activist Omoyele Sowore now, so we can ask him some questions about today's event. Mr. Sowore, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, let's take a look at the protest repression cycle in Nigeria. 2014, Bring Back Our Girls, 2020, NSAS, 2024, hunger protests, and then 2025, for Nnamdi Kanu. And I'm wondering, do you believe that peaceful protests can still work in Nigeria, or has the state forced activists like you to rethink resistance?
Well, I believe in peaceful protests. I believe in nonviolence. That has been my tool of resistance since I got into the university in 1989, and I've not changed that. But what you can tell is that Nigerian government don't really respect people who are not violent. If you are not violent, you get treated like trash by the police, the army, and other security agents. I'm shocked that civil defense, as we used to know them, have also joined, in this business of torture, harassment, intimidation, and beating of citizens. Everyone with a gun is just out of control. So, and if you know the way government pamper militants, the way they pamper criminals, the way they pamper bandits and terrorists, you almost want to rethink, if it is okay to always engage these guys with placards. But for someone like me who have taken a position of nonviolence nonviolent struggle, I believe it works. It is the most powerful moral force there is to fight against oppression.
So, Mr. Sowore, many believe that Nnamdi's detention has gone beyond a legal debate. They're now calling it, let me read it here, political hostage situation. So beyond these ethnic lines, what does Nnamdi Kanu's prolonged detention symbolize for every Nigerian who wants to challenge power?
It's suppression, it's discrimination, it's profiling. It has a component of ethnic profiling. I am not going to mince word if I tell you that Nnamdi Kanu would have been treated differently if he wasn't an Igbo man. That's the truth, because we know how people who come from other parts of the country are treated, even when they are still actively bearing arms. The only thing that was presented in court against Nnamdi Kanu is a microphone and his undershirt, nothing more. But the rest of our brothers have engaged in terrorism, they've engaged in banditry, kidnapping, some have engaged in all kinds of violent resistance. You cannot question some of them because some of them decided very early that they don't want to be like the Shores of this or get beaten, and harassed and tear gassed by the police. They respond in equal measure, knowing that Nigeria state is a very violent state. So everybody understands that Nnamdi Kanu is treated this way because of where he's from. I have no doubt about that.
Mr. Shore, the youth of Nigeria, they're protesting on many lines here. Top on their agenda is the fact that there is hunger today. So it's not ideological anymore. But the question is, why do you convert this raw anger into organized political power?
You know, it's something that we should be asking ourselves why the situation in the country has not become converted to some kind of kinetic energy in the right direction. But I think that is happening. Maybe it's not happening at the pace that I want. I wish this is happening really now. But what I noticed about today, for instance, that there were a lot of young people. Your reporter was talking about what happened in Apple Mechanic Village where we protested. I'm surprised that I don't see that footage flying on your page anyways. But it was massive. It was massive. And what you could tell is that this is beyond just asking for Nnamdi Kanu's release. People are tired of the system. They are tired of hunger, starvation, unemployment, you know, and the economic dislocation has turned them into, you know, second-class citizens in their own country. And they see how the political class just lavish, you know, their taxpayer, their taxes on their lifestyle. So I have a belief that something is going to happen. Something got to at some point.
So one has to ask what happens after the protests today. And do you think that the protest was effective?
Oh, it was effective. So, I mean, Abuja was shut down, and there's nothing else that was talked about today other than this protest. And they might pretend that they didn't see it, but you could tell. Even the judge that gave the order that we cannot protest could not come to court today to attend to the case that he asked us to come to. But I must make a comment. And my comment is directed at the police PPRO, CSP Hunday, Benjamin Hunday. I saw him. I'm shaking my head. You know, these guys just don't understand that this country belongs to other people. You think wearing uniform and sitting pretty in office, you can just denigrate dishonestly, hypocritically your fellow citizens. And I felt so sad hearing him because I thought he was a decent guy. You know, we are just, you know, parted ways with Muyiwa Adejobi. But for this guy to be telling you that they have a right to attack people who are peacefully protesting and they use money, they fired not only tear gas at us, they fired live ammunition at us. And this was unprovoked. So if he claims that they were using minimum force because we're close to Aso Rock, what was the basis for the force that was used in the tackle? What was the basis for the massive force that was used in the
well,
tackle?
Mr. Shore, Mr. Shore, Mr. Shore, we're having issues with your sound, but we have come to the end of that scheduled time for this talk with you. But thank you very much for giving us from your side of things. Thank you.
Right.
Coming up tonight, NLC gives FG 4 weeks ultimatum to resolve ASU crisis. I'll bring you the story and much more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now you're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Nigerians witness another round of police brutality as they mark 5th anniversary of NSAS protests with demand for release of Nnamdi Kanu. And President Tinubu reaffirms commitment to judicial independence, urges fairness in dispensing justice. Colombia recalls ambassador to United States following President Trump's disparaging remarks and threat to cut off aid. 5 years after the Lekki toll gate shooting, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, CP Moshujimo, says the Nigerian police force has undergone significant reform. with improvements in both personnel and equipment. He made this known while speaking to News Central's lead correspondent Bernard Akede at the same time, or rather at the same site, where protesters were shot in 2020 while demanding an end to police brutality.
It's a regular Monday morning at the Lekki toll gate. No placards, no chants, no protests. But this is no ordinary Monday. Today marks 5 years since the EndSARS protest, when security forces opened fire on demonstrators calling for an end to police brutality in Nigeria. The usual bustle at the toll plaza was accompanied by a heavier than normal presence of security personnel, a reminder of the event that once shook the nation. Some say the silence is deliberate, an attempt to make Nigerians forget that October 20th, 2020 ever happened.
Our hashtag today is "We will never forget." And we must. I mean, that's myself and my colleague Nanre, who's here, who's a scholar who has been talking about this whole notion of history and why we deliberately forget and don't amplify so people can move on and don't have a reference point. Imagine this is 5 years. A child that was born 5 years ago, by the time they turn 10 in 2030, what would their understanding of EndSARS be?
In previous years, some gatherings and memorial protests have been held to mark the day, but this year, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police led a show of force across the state to ensure there were no demonstrations.
Before now, we have made massive deployment to all the traditional locations in Lagos where protesters used to come out. And I'm going around to observe the situation of things. Like we have seen, there no single protester have come out here. And our confidence building patrol, which we call the show of force exercise, is to ensure that the members of the public go about their lawful business and other responsibility and fear and apprehension.
When asked if the police have experienced any meaningful reforms since the protests of 2020, the commissioner said the force has indeed witnessed improvement in manpower and equipment.
There have been a lot of series of reform initiatives that have been carried out by the Inspector General of Police, IGP, Olukayode Adeolegbe-Tokun, PhD, MPM, that have been culminated in a lot of welfare improvement for all officers and men of the force. If you can see, even in the turnout of our uniform, you can see how bright we are than what we have in 2020. Even in terms of equipment and the motorized patrol team, you can equally see improvement in our equipment and in the deployment of logistics to protect life and property throughout Lagos State. And I say same throughout the country.
Shortly after the commissioner's departure, a mild drama ensued. Executive Director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, Yemi Adamoleku, attempted to lay flowers at the toll gate in remembrance of those who lost their lives. She was, however, stopped by security operatives who claimed that the gesture could attract unwanted attention.
And 5 years after, at the Lekki toll gate here, the epicenter of the EndSARS protests in Lagos, there's peace and there's calm. The only thing we can notice is the heavy presence of police officers. However, there are questions that are yet to be answered. Have Nigerians forgotten about EndSARS? Did the struggles of the youths who were here for days go in vain? And of course, have their demands been met, or has it been swept under the rug? In Lagos for News Central, Bernard Akede.
President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to judicial independence and the anti-corruption fight, urging Nigerian judges to remain impartial and steadfast in dispensing justice. Vice President Kashim Shettima made the remark at the opening of the EFCC and National Judicial Institute workshop for justices and judges in Abuja. News Central's state correspondent Bettina Nweli here reports.
Represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, President Bola Tinubu warned that the decay of any society begins when its judiciary becomes compromised. He disclosed that the EFCC recorded over 7,000 convictions and recovered assets worth more than 500 billion naira within the first 2 years of his administration.
The EFCC, for example, has recorded over 7,000 convictions in the first 2 years of the present administration and recovered assets in excess of 500 billion naira. Recovered proceeds of crime by the agency are being plugged back into the economy to fund critical social investment programs, including the students' loan and consumer credit schemes.
Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekereekun, reminded judges that the nation's stability depends on their integrity and urged them to ensure justice is neither delayed nor partial.
Each ruling, each judgment carries implications that extend far beyond the courtroom. They either strengthen or weaken the people's faith in the capacity of the law to hold all persons accountable regardless of status, power, or privilege.
It's more than a professional symposium. It is a crucible of renewal, a place where investigators, prosecutors, and judges forge their instruments not in rivalry, but in unity, where the fire of intellect tempers the steel of justice.
The presidency continues to reaffirm the vision of a corruption-free Nigeria built on fairness, transparency, and justice for all. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nweli.
Still ahead tonight, Madagascar coup leader names new prime minister. Details of this and more when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Federal Road Safety Corps has officially launched its 2025 Amber Months Public Enlightenment and Sanitization campaign themed Take Responsibility for Your Safety. Stop Distracted Driving. The campaign focuses on reducing road crashes during Nigeria's high-risk travel seasons. Iqbalani Amoni here reports.
The 2025 campaign places strong emphasis on driver behavior, identified as one of the leading causes of road crashes, particularly during the festive season when travel activity spikes across the country. According to the FRSC data, the last Operation Zero campaign recorded 533 road crashes, which led to 432 deaths and over 2,000 injuries. Key causes include driver fatigue, overloading, and mobile phone use while driving.
In line with our commitment to achieve the desired outcome of the 2025 end of the year campaign, Federal Road Safety Corps has mapped out the following actionable measures. A. Deployment of FRSC personnel and special marshals across major highway and crash-prone corridors nationwide. Free vehicle safety check exercise to improve vehicle roadworthiness. Conducting motorpark rallies and motorcar carnivals nationwide to raise awareness levels of motorists and the general public.
Noting that the Corps has recorded a 15% drop in crashes in Lagos alone, it emphasizes tackling corruption within the Corps and on the road as a way of curbing impact of these actions on road safety.
803 drivers were booked for attempting to corrupt marshal. In the second quarter, 531. In the third quarter, we have 556, amounting to 1,890 persons booked for attempting to corrupt marshal. And of course, put in Naira and Kobo, the total sum that was rejected from members of the public, of course, drivers who attempted to corrupt our men, amounted to 849,000 Naira. Many a times, people believe that we arrest only private vehicles. I say no, it is not correct. Most overloaded vehicles that were arrested are almost all, if not all, commercial vehicles. Yet we are looking at 10% reduction in road traffic crashes and its fatality. So far, we have achieved 15.17%.
With over 50,000 unclaimed driver's licenses, the Corps says efforts are underway to digitize the licensing process with a new contactless biometric system expected to eliminate delays and the use of temporary licenses, which could reduce drivers' license violation. As the 2025 Amber Months campaign gets into full swing, the FRSC is urging motorists and passengers alike to stay alert, obey traffic rules, and take personal responsibility for safety on the road. In Lagos, for News Central, Igbalani Omani.
Now, women are increasingly taking charge of Africa's marketing and communications landscape, leading innovation, driving creativity, and shaping powerful brands across the continent. This shift forms the backdrop for this year's Women in Marketing and Communications Conference, an award themed Bloom, Boom, Zoom, the pursuit of excellence. The event celebrated trailblazing women who continue to redefine the industry through leadership, innovation, and impact.
Get ready to learn, connect, and be inspired.
Across boardrooms, agencies, and creative spaces, women are no longer just participants but key drivers behind ideas and strategies, shaping some of Africa's most influential brands. This was the focus of the 2025 Women in Marketing and Communications Conference and Awards, also known as WIMCA, organized by Brand Communicator, with the theme Bloom, Boom, Zoom, the pursuit of excellence. This year's edition examined the evolving journey of women in the industry, from professional growth and mastery to leadership and global impact.
This year's WIMCA is particularly special. We have chosen to focus on a theme that captures the essence of every human's professional journey, from growth to greatness. The theme for 2025 WIMCA is Bloom, Boom, Zoom, the pursuit of excellence. This theme speaks to the natural progression of every ambitious woman.
I believe that the pursuit of excellence is what separates the good from the truly great. Are you holding yourself to a higher standard than what is expected? By the way, excellence is a choice. It's an identity. It's a mindset shift.
Do not let your environment ever dictate how far you want to dream. Something that has helped me is that from the very beginning, I've had 3 C's: clarity, courage, and consistency. News Central.
A key highlight of the event was the unveiling of the top 50 most influential women in marketing and communications, a recognition celebrating trailblazing women transforming the industry across Africa, particularly in Nigeria. Among the honorees was News Central's Director of Commercial and Communications, Rosemary Egbabo Afolayan, acknowledged for outstanding contribution to brand leadership and media innovation.
It's really important for me because you hardly find media brands that win awards or have individuals that can be picked out to be the top 50 influential people in marketing and communication. So for me, it's a good one for me and a good one for News Central TV. That means it just shows that we're doing something different. It shows that we're dominating space and, people are beginning to become more aware of the brand and, respecting the brand more.
I think they're doing a lot for the industry, just recognizing excellence, recognizing hard work, recognizing impact, So I'm glad to, somehow always feature on this list. On my own part, it's just to commit to also making sure that whatever we do, we're doing, for the society that we live in.
Coaching.
As Nigeria's business landscape increasingly embraces diversity and inclusion as vital drivers of progress, platforms like WIMCA continue to take the lead, amplifying the voices of women who are redefining the future of marketing and communications across the continent.
Outside Nigeria now, as Cameroonians anxiously await the result of the country's presidential elections, the government has now fixed Thursday, October the 23rd, as the official date for the announcement. In a press release issued earlier on Monday, authorities directed all aggrieved parties to submit complaints about the electoral process to the Constitutional Council by Wednesday, October the 22nd, where they will be heard ahead of Thursday's declaration. The government says the National Commission for the Final Counting of Votes has already completed its review of reports from divisional committees across the country and the diaspora. And Madagascar's coup leader, Colonel Michael Randrianirina, has appointed a new prime minister. Now, he seized power this month after Gen Z-driven protests forced the former president out of the country, and sworn in as president last week, said that he chose businessman Haris Salama Rajonoriavelo as the new prime minister because of his experience and connections with the international organization that work with us. Meanwhile, former President Andry Rajoelina, whom lawmakers impeached for desertion of duties after they fled abroad last weekend, has condemned the army takeover and refused to step down while in exile. Now to one of our headline stories. Colombia has said it has recalled the ambassador to the United States after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to cut off aid and made disparaging remarks about the Colombian president over the weekend. The South African, or rather American country's Minister of Foreign Affairs said on Monday that Ambassador Daniel Garcia Piena had already arrived in Bogota to meet with President Gustavo Petro, whom Trump called an illegal drug leader on Sunday. The growing feud between the two countries has centered on U.S. strikes in the Caribbean on vessels that the Trump administration alleged are transporting drugs, mostly from Venezuela. Our Tonight returns with business, sports, and of course entertainment. Do stay with us.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
The Nigerian House of Representatives has urged the federal government to allocate 350 million naira in the 2026 budget to revive dormant industries and support SMEs nationwide. The call, led by Honorable Akarachi Amadi, highlights the collapse of key sectors due to poor infrastructure, high interest rates, and power shortages, contributing to unemployment rising from 25% in 2022 to over 40% in 2025. Amadi warned of capital flight as manufacturers relocate to neighboring countries. The revival targets major inactive industries like Katsina Steel Rolling Mill and a national paper manufacturing company. The House directed the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to prioritize this funding. The Nigerian Communications Commission has launched quarterly public network performance reports to boost transparency and improve telecom consumer experience. CEO Aminu Maida emphasized the data-driven initiative will empower consumers, investors, and operators by providing credible crowdsourced metrics on network quality, 5G rollout, device adoption, and service comparisons. Supported by the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and NITDA, the reports promote accountability and competitive service improvement. UCLA officials praised the move as a global best practice, urging expanded 5G deployment and 4G optimization to ease network strain in urban areas. The reports will be publicly accessible on the NCC website. Moving on to the stock market report. Nigeria's stock market kicked off the week on a bright note, with the all-share index inching higher as investors showed renewed confidence across key sectors. It wasn't a runaway rally, but enough to keep the bulls smiling and the bears watching closely. Here's how the numbers shaped up on the NGX today. The all-share index climbed up by 0.65% to close at 149,940.81 points, and that pushed the market capitalization up to 95.17 trillion naira. Now let's see what's happening on the sectoral performance. Today, it was an industrial-sized boost driving the rally, with industrial goods surging at over 2%, closing at 2.34%, and other sectors like banking closed also in the green at 0.48%. Oil and gas closed at 0.65% in the green, and consumer goods also lent a modest boost to today's stock market closing at 0.08%. But unfortunately, not every single key sector was able to join the rally party, as insurance took a hit, diving to 0.7%. So a steady start to the week for the NGX, not quite fireworks, but enough to spark and keep investors watching the next move. As earnings season looms and global cues shift, all eyes remain on whether this momentum can hold. That's it on markets, and as always, we keep our eyes on the tickers to keep you informed. And that's a wrap on Business Tonight. My name is Chamunda Bank, and coming up next is Okpe Olua with sports.
Team Nigeria's powerlifters received a rousing reception at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, after an exceptional outing at the 2025 World Para Powerlifting Championships in Cairo, Egypt. The team finished second overall among 74 nations with 8 gold, 7 silver and 5 bronze medals behind China, who claimed 13 gold, 4 silver and 4 bronze medals. The Cairo tournament was the first ever hosted in Africa. The National Sports Commission has described the performance as a reaffirmation of Nigeria's status as one of the world's leading forces in para-powerlifting. The NSC reaffirmed its resolve to continue prioritizing inclusivity and excellence in sports by ensuring that para-athletes receive the recognition and the resources they deserve. Nigeria's Super Falcons have opened camp in Lomé, Togo, ahead of their 2026 WAFCON qualifying fixture against Benin Republic. The first leg will be played on Friday in Lomé, while the return leg takes place on October 28th in Abeokuta, Nigeria. As of the time of this report, we can confirm 9 players, including Asisat Oshoala, Taiwo Afolabi, Tosin Dimeyin, Folashade Ijamilusi, Miracle Useni, Joy Omewa, Adeline Ngbechi, Blessing Elevida, and Kafayat Mashere have reported to camp at Hotel Sarakawa. The team had its first training session today, and more players are being expected. And here in Nigeria, NPFL side Kano Pillars have suspended their technical advisor, Evans Ogenyi, and chief coach, Ahmed Garba Yaro following the team's 2-1 defeat to Barao FC in a local derby at the Sani Abacha Stadium on Sunday. The loss marked Pillars' 4th defeat of the 2025 Nigeria Premier Football League season, alongside 2 wins and 2 draws. In response, the club appointed former captain and assistant coach, Gambo Mohamed, as interim manager. He will be assisted by goalkeeping coach Suleiman Shuaibu and Ghazali Mohammed. Kano Pillars will next face Niger Tornadoes in their matchday 10 fixture this weekend. The match will be played at the Mohammed Dikko Stadium in Katsina after Pillars were banished from Kano following crowd violence. And that's all on Sports News tonight. Entertainment is next with Sam Dandy.
Of course, it's time for entertainment. Sam Dandy is right here for the latest. Sam, what's happening?
Let's get into it. Now, this is from over the weekend, of course. A distressing clip surfaced showing actress Regina Daniels crying over alleged domestic violence at home with the politician and businessman husband Ned Nwoko. Now, it's now become one of the most talked about celebrity controversies of the year as fans question Regina's safety and state of mind. Nwoko issued a lengthy response strongly denying the violence claims and instead pointing to what he calls Regina's drug and alcohol abuse as the roots of their marriage crisis. He alleged that she assaulted staff, destroyed property, and refused rehabilitation options he suggested. Now, will this end in reconciliation, legal actions, or more revelations? The next few days will tell. Now, their marriage first made headlines back in 2019 when the then 19-year-old actress married the then 59-year-old politician as his 6th wife. A lot of people are talking about that one, but we're going to wait, of course, to see how it pans out. Let's move from that. Rapper Odumodu Black has been in the news, although much attention went to the now viral altercation between himself and the manager of fellow rapper Black Bones as part of this continued rap feud. But on the other hand, another viral moment caught online, Odumodu made a case for the Big Three, saying, first of all, I think it's Big Seven. Now, here's where it gets bigger. Big Three, of course, is fondly used to celebrate Afrobeats heavyweights Burna Boy, Davido, and Wizkid, but it's been up for debate over the past few years. Now, Odumodu extends the list of this genre's heavyweights to include YBNL boss Olamide, Grammy-winning songstress Thames, Calm Down crooner Rema, and Mr. Money with the Vibe, Ashake. According to him, these 7 artists, of course, these Big Seven, have taken the Afrobeats genre to more heights. It's no doubt that, of course, that they're incredible. I mean, Rema does this thing with Calm Down. Thames is super beautiful. I could go on, but honestly, Afrobeats of the world. My name is Samuel. Those are the biggest stories in entertainment, and that's all for now.